Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trinisphere, where Timmy, Johnny, and Spike battle over all things EDH. Today we've got a gameplay episode for you, the Battle of the Omnaths. There's a new Omnath that came out in Zendikar Rising, and we decided let's see which Omnath is the best. We'll have 4 players sitting down with 4 different Omnaths, battling it out to determine which Omnath best Omnath. I am Shannon the Johnny. I'll be playing Omnath Locus of Mana. I'm joined by Juan the Timmy, playing Omnath Locus of Rage, Hogg the Spike, playing Omnath Locus of the Roil, and our guest Jim, who is a bit of a Timmy-Spike hybrid. It will be playing the Omnath Locus of Creation, the new one from Zendikar Rising. We have not been making a whole lot of gameplays since the pandemic began. The equipment to do solid audio and video without being in the same room is not quite there. We decided to try and make this video because we're starting to get antsy. We want to make more content for you all. However, the audio was still not up to our par, so we ended up having to scrap the audio, and you'll be listening to me for the next 30 minutes or so narrate this gameplay. But other than that, we'll dive right into this gameplay in a minute after we randomize player order and resolve mulligans. See you in a second. Alright, we're back from the mulligans and the randomization of player order via spell table. That's going to put Jim with Locus of Creation playing first. I'm playing second with Locus of Mana. Hogg is playing third with Locus of the Roil, and Juan is playing last with the Locus of Rage. Kind of lamenting how Juan's kind of lamenting how he has the biggest, most expensive commander and is playing last, which is kind of rough. Jim's going to start with a Path of Ancestry, pretty good for a deck that's probably Elemental heavy, if not Omnath heavy. I'm going to start with a Dryad Arbor, so I'm going to mention that this is a Dryad Arbor, not a Forest, just so everyone knows, because it's the one that tricked even competitive players in the Pro Tour. Hogg is up next, and Hogg is going to deploy a Windswept Heath, an Expedition Windswept Heath, and crack that, and is going to go get a Taiga. So no matter what, at this point, Hogg is competing on a different level. That is what is the value of my deck level, and I think Hogg's probably going to win that one. So, Spike's got to win they got to win no matter what in all fronts. So the value of deck competition is slewed very heavily in Hogg's favor. Juan is going to turn 1 Valakut Molten Pinnacle, which is pretty surprising, pretty shocking that he would keep that land and play last. Pretty crazy. Jim is going to play a Sacred Foundry and then deploy a Colony Heart Expedition, which is pretty good for all of our decks. Getting those extra landfall triggers at will, banking those. Alright, it's back to me. I have my Dryad Arbor. I'm going to tap that for a Llanowar Elves. And then I'm going to follow that up with a Gaia's Cradle. So that taps for 2 because a Dryad Arbor is also a creature. And then I'm going to wrap up my turn with a Sakura Tribe Elder. So a lot of early game ramp, position to get Omnath down and start cranking out mana as fast as I can. Hogg, however, has different plans. Hogg deploys a Breeding Pool, shocking himself, so that's not a good sign. He has a very important turn 2 play, and that turn 2 play is a Renin 6, which is very bad for me. Renin 6, of course, can deal 1 damage to any target, which includes my Dryad Arbor and my Llanowar Elves. And the entire table is really excited for this. However, Hogg decides to roll Renin N6 up to retrieve Windswept Heath from graveyard to hand. So, debatable as to whether or not the table really wanted Hogg to blow up my Dryad Arbor, but instead he said he's trying to not make enemies this early in the game. And I really appreciate that right now because I'm super vulnerable to Renin 6. Juan plays a land and passes to Jim, and Jim plays a Radha Heart of Keld. The new one, 3/3, that's kind of like a Oracle of Moldiah. Lets you play lands at the top. I'm going to pop Sakura Tribe Elder. It's debatable as to whether or not I should keep that as a blocker, since Gaia's Cradle kind of keeps it at the same amount of mana production if it's alive or if it's land now. However, I want to get as many Renin 6 targets off the table as possible, so it can be more predictable in my mindset of what Renin 6 will be targeting. I'm going to play Omnath Locus of Rage here, or Omnath Locus of Mana, and then just pass the turn and try and weather another Renin 6 turn. Hogg then plays a Strip Mine, so Hogg's pretty much got my number locked. Renin 6 can kill my Mana Dork, Strip Mine can destroy my Gaia's Cradle. Hogg can basically undo maybe 2 or 3 turns of my life here. Hogg's going to follow that up with a Thrasios, Triton Hero, so at this point we're pretty sure this is a CDH deck. Hogg is going to minus Renin 6 and blast my Llanowar Elves. I'll activate my Gaia's Cradle in response to add 3 to the pool so that I can get that extra creature in play use out of Gaia's Cradle before my Llanowar Elves dies. Passing over to Juan. Juan's going to play a Forest and then cast a, I believe it's a Cultivate. Yep, Cultivate here, just ramping. Good old clean magic here. Turn 3 is for ramping. All these other tryhards doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Ramping, that's all you're supposed to be doing in the first 3 turns of the game. Jim's up and is looking, peeking, doing all the things with the Radha. Playing a Mountain, rolling up Heart Expedition, and then casting this awesome Collector's Edition Secret Lair stick figure, Omnath, Locus of Creation. So hitting the battlefield and drawing Jim a card. I think Jim's going to pass after that. Alright, so I am going to, at end step, add a green to my pool, because I still had a forest open. Hogg is actually, kind of a miscommunication here, is strip mining my Gaia's Cradle at end of Jim's turn, so it doesn't in fact untap. But our audio is really bad this time, so I apologize. Alright, so my Cradle is dead, my Mana Dork is dead, and Random 6 is still menacing my board state, can still kill my Dryad Arbor, so I gotta do something about that. I'm going to add 3 to my pool to roll up Omnath. I accidentally used Scavenger Grounds, and you can't do that because it needs to be green sources. Omnath only cares about green sources, so I had to switch that around. And then I'll go to combat and swing at Renin 6 here. I really want to get Retribution on Hogg for doing so much damage to my mana base, but I also don't. I need to get Renin 6 off the board so I can keep Dryad Arbor around. Alright, and a second main, I'll deploy a Fyndhorn Elves, along with one of my new favorite, a Garruk's Uprising. So that'll draw me a card because Omnath is power 4 or greater, and it'll also give Omnath Trample, which will be super relevant because, you know, Omnath can get real big, but can be chunked by almost anything. So Hogg's playing land number 4, but because of Strip Mine, it's still only on 3 land drops, but however is going to ramp back into position with a Mox Diamond. Prismatic Vista was a land getting a island, and then Mox Diamond discards Windswept Heath. Chris is then going to cast his commander, the Locus of the Roil, and it'll deal 1 damage to any target. So it's either my Dryad Arbor, my Fyndhorn Elves, or it's a waste. And it's going to end up using it on my Fyndhorn Elves. It's totally understandable. Any other target would have been a waste of it. So this one, I don't really feel too aggressed by that target. I feel like I've weathered the storm. He did not destroy my Dryad Arbor. Juan plays a land on turn 5 and passes, so that clutch, casual, turn 5, no play. Jim's going to draw and then peek with Radha and find an island and play that off the top with Radha. And that's going to roll the Heart Expedition up to 3, so now Kalani can be popped as a kind of a Ranger's Guile. It's also going to trigger Omnath to gain Jim 4 life, so really starting to fire on all cylinders this Omnath deck. Jim's going to pop the Heart Expedition and go get a Plains and Forest, triggering the Omnath 2 more times, dealing 4 damage to all of us and also adding white, blue, red, green to Jim's mana pool. Jim's going to add 2 more to the mana pool, so now 6 in the mana pool, and is going to deploy a Phylath World Sculptor Secret Lair Stick Figure Edition. That's going to add 4 0/1 plants to the battlefield, as well as being a 5/5. And then this is a pretty hot follow play. It's going to be a Coiling Oracle, revealing, what do you know, a land off the top, because of course Jim could see the next card using Radha, so was sure that Coiling Oracle was going to be a hit there. That's going to add 4 +1/+1 counters to a plant, making it a 4/5. So Jim's board is getting really scary pretty quick here. Jim's going to go to combat, and Jim's going to swing at me with Radha and at Hogg with the Omnath. So we both take that damage there. No blocks. Alright, on my turn, I will untap and then play a land, and then just pump all of it in Omnath. As you usually do with Omnath, you just fill up your mana pool and go to combat, hope you don't get Source to Plowshared, and you crunch. I wanted to go at Jim here, but that 4/5 plant now means that he can effectively outpace and block and kill my Omnath. And I don't want to go at Chris because I want to de-escalate the tension between us. I don't want him blowing up any more of my stuff. So I'm going to cut him some slack. So I end up going at Juan there. I'm going to second main a Vivian, Champion of the Wilds, which of course gives my creatures flash, but it also has a +1 to give creature vigilance and reach. So that's kind of a misplay. I could have done that beforehand. I would have reduced my damage output by 3, but have given me another blocker. So it's kind of a mistake on my part. I didn't really think that went through well enough. All right, Hogg is up. Of course, at the end of my turn, he Noxious revivals that Windswept Heath back on top of his library, and then plays it for turn, and cracks it to get a Tropical Island, putting 2 counters on Omnath, Locus of the Roil, making it a 5/5. And setting up the Thrasios follow-on play. Over to Juan. Juan looks at the board and does not like what he sees, so he decides to Scape Shift, which is pretty insane. It's probably why Juan kept a Valakut in the starting hand, because Juan also had Scape Shift and was just ready for this spicy play. So, gonna put 5 mountains into play, of course. They come into play simultaneously, and they see each other being in play. So Valakut gets triggered 5 times to deal lightning bolt 5 different targets. Those targets are gonna be Radha, Thrasios. 2 of them are gonna go to Phylath to kill Phylath, and then 1 to Jim's face to keep Jim below 40 life. We had mentioned that because Omnath gains Jim 4 life every turn, the life total is something to keep an eye on, and Juan takes on the mantle of keeping him human, as we would say. Jim is up, untapping after having lost 2 creatures there, including Phylath, which was very scary. Just putting 4 counters on a plant every turn makes it almost impossible to attack Jim. So really happy that Juan was able to deal with that Phylath. Alright, Jim is going to play probably even a more crazy card. That is the Secret Lair Stick Figure Edition Feladar's Retreat, which is like the Ameri Retreat and the Kazani Retreat stapled together, but somehow even better. It's insane. The card is so good compared to the old retreats. So Jim's going to play a land and opt to put a +1/+1 counter and give Vigilance to all of his creatures, and then is going to get Retribution on Juan for blowing up some of his stuff by full flooping, as we would say in the business, or alpha striking Juan for full damage, hitting Juan like a truck. He's gonna Jim's gonna follow up second main phase with a Seer's Sundial here, so love that he's playing that card. At the end of his turn, because I have Flash, I'm going to flash in a Rex Sage to destroy that retreat. I'm deathly afraid of it. It's just too good. I'm already having trouble dealing with the 4/5 plant that's now a 5/6, but +1/+1ing the board, 3 land drops a turn. It could get out of hand too quick. Kill that thing on sight. I'm running out of gas here in my hand, so I'm going to roll Vivian down here and hope to hit some kind of draw engine, which or something to trigger my Garruk's Uprising, and I do manage to find a pretty sweet card. I had to commit my full turn to it, but it's worthwhile here to get back ahead of the game. So I have trouble counting. I'm only half Asian, so I'm half really bad at math, apparently. Nope, that's incorrect, so I gotta redo it. Okay, there we go. It's only 7 for this Regal Force. That'll trigger to draw me 4 cards. I have 4 creatures, including my Dryad Arbor. It'll also trigger Garruk's Uprising to draw me a 5th card. So I get to draw 5 here and get a 5/5 for 7 mana. I will take that math in my mono green deck. It leaves Omnath smaller than I would like it to be, but at this point I'm worried about Omnath getting zapped by something, so I can start focusing on a wider board than a tall Omnath. Hogg is up, is going to play a Mystic Sanctuary to return Noxious Revival on top. And then for a single, tap that Mystic Sanctuary to play a Soul Ring. So putting Noxious Revival on top pretty much locks Hogg into the board state, or the game that he has, the graveyard he has, the card hands that he has. But he plays a Oko Thief of Crowns. Thief of the Crown? I don't know. That horrible, awful Oko, which is just terrifying in this matchup. All of our decks are based off of our Omnaths, and this can turn Omnaths into nothings. And he does do that to Jim's Omnath. So Locus of Creation is now a 3/3 Elk with a +1/+1 counter on it. So Juan casts Splendid Reclamation, putting 5 lands back into play. Only one of them is a mountain, and he's going to use that to shoot Jim in the dome to try and keep Jim from gaining too much life. Jim plays a High Market the turn after getting his Commander Elk, which is really good for him. Able to sacrifice that Elk and replay that Commander to get it back online. And this is our game night appearance of Hogg's daughter, Ailey. Ailey loves dice, loves die, so it's just absolutely hilarious whenever... Watch, she's very dexterous. Look at this, trying to stop her. But, you know, you can't. He's too fast. I think at this point, Hogg's giving her some decoy die, but it doesn't work. Oh, too fast. Dead. Oh, too fast. Double dead. I always love it when Ailey shows up for the matchup. Alright, we got that resolved. Jim is going to go to combat and swing at Juan with that 4/4 elk commander. And then Juan's just going to take that, and Jim's going to sacrifice that to high market so that Jim can recast that Omnath. And here it goes, Omnath with tax. I think tax is just 2 right now. Path of Ancestry allows Jim to scry before drawing off of Omnath, so Jim does do that correctly and does that well. This is the part where Juan starts singing "Living on a Prayer" repeatedly, which is hilarious. I'm going to deploy a Cetessan champion, so at this point everyone kind of realizes finally the gig is up. I'm playing an Enchantress deck in mono green, so that's kind of fun. And then I'm going to follow that up with a Nylea, God of the Hunt, the old Nylea. So devoted as a 6/6. It's going to trigger Cetessan to draw me a card, and Garruk's Uprising to draw me a card, because power 4 or greater, obviously. And that's another way to give Omnath trample here, but Omnath is not really my primary strategy right now. Still not happy with the hand. I guess I've used up the 5 cards I've drawn here, so I'm going to roll Nylea down to look for another creature or something to trigger my Garruk's Uprising or my Cetessan champion. I do believe I hit 3 lands here. Super unfortunate. That card is dead. Alright, on to Hogg. Hogg's going to untap with this Oko. I'm really pretty sure this Oko is going to be targeting my Omnath, or at least my Nylea. So I'm just prepared, trying to spread out my power across multiple permanents, because I figure one of them is going to turn into an Elk here. Chris deploys a Eternal Scourge, which is when we realize he's playing a food chain deck, which is terrifying. But he says he's out of gas, he hasn't drawn well. This is just a blocker at this point. He uses Oko to once again Elk Jim's commander, which I really dodged a second bullet this game there with that one. I really expected it to be my Omnath or my Nylea. Alright, Juan is deploying Omnath, Locus of Rage. Juan is, as he's been saying, living on a prayer, and is going to try and stabilize here at 8 life with this, playing a Colony Heart Expedition. This is pretty good. And then playing a land, making a 5/5 elemental blocker. So 10 power on board now with a Colony Heart Expedition starting to grow. That is a mountain, so that's a Valakut trigger. He's going to fire that 3 damage at the big plant on Jim's board, doing 3 damage to it. It has 6 toughness. Juan's going to try and follow it up with a Nissa's Pilgrimage to try and finish it off with another mountain, but if we all recall, Nissa's Pilgrimage only gets forests, so it's a bit of a miss on Juan's part. Accidentally tries to kill that 5/6 plant, but fails to do so because Nissa's Pilgrimage does not get a mountain. Alright, Jim is pretty mad that Juan tried to kill that 5/6, but looks across the board and sees 15 blocking power. That's not good. Deploys a Titania, Protector of Argoth with no lands in Jim's graveyard. Kind of scary, right? Like, why would you play that card? Well, I think we all know what's coming next. He's going to follow it up with Escape Shift. Potential to make 10 5/3s by sacrificing his entire land mana base. Hogg over there, still in this matchup, is going to play a Swan Song to cancel that Escape Shift. Thank Christ. We would all probably die to that army of 5/3s for sure. Jim does not have a 2/2 bird, so is instead using a Beeble to represent that. Hilarious. Jim's going to play a castle, the blue castle, and activate the Seer's Sundial, or pay for the Seer's Sundial trigger to draw a card. Alright, I am up. Still in this matchup. Juan's starting to build up board state. I've managed to dodge these Okos, but I've got to get rid of it. I've dodged too many bullets for me to be comfortable. I need to start gaining control of this game here, so I'm going to swing Nylea at Jim. Since it's indestructible, I want to try and get rid of some of those blockers, and I'm going to send, mainly the bulk of my attack will be the Omnath towards Oko. We want to get rid of that thing before it is able to fire one more time, because it's going to be me eventually. I have the potential to make Omnath a 10/10, so Chris has the choice of blocking with Eternal Scourge, which wouldn't work, because my Omnath has Trample. I'd trample over enough damage to kill it, or would have to put his commander in front of it and he chooses to just let Oko die, probably to try and de-aggro himself out of the threat of this threat assessment. On to the second main phase, I'm going to play a Seal of Primordium, so that's like a naturalize on an enchantment, triggering my Setessan to draw a card. And just hodling at this point, trying to dig for my win cons. Don't want to go sideways, but it's looking like it might have to be that way. Jim is just building up board, continually building up board despite an enormous amount of disruption. Hogg top decks and plays a Llanowar Elves. So really is starting to lose steam pretty quick here. That Swan Song was clutch, but is not able to follow that up with anything relevant. On to Juan. Juan is going to play a land to roll County Heart Expedition up to max power. The trigger's on the stack, and he's kind of baiting or asking, "Do I want to kill it?" And I was like, "No, I'm going to keep my Seal of Primordium for something else." I feel like Juan being at 8 is definitely something I can deal with, even if he's able to build up board. But that deck can grow pretty fast, so maybe I should have blown it up, prevent it, but as long as those 5/5s aren't coming at me, they need to help me. I need help dealing with Jim, because Jim is producing so many blockers so quickly. Alright, Juan's going to follow it up with a Nissa Vital Force. That's the one that can ult on the second turn. So he's going to roll it up to create turn one of his force into a 5/5 blocker. Juan is going to go to combat. At this point, I assume some of it's going to be coming my way. I only have power or toughness 5 as my blockers. This is my biggest blocker, so I can't effectively block. I trade with whatever comes at me. And so Juan is going to swing at me with a 5/5, and he's going to swing at Hogg with a 5/5. Hogg's going to use that chump blocker, that Llanowar Elves to block. And I'm debating, I think the 5/5 might be going at my Vivien here. I decide to block with my Dryad Arbor and roll up my Omnath. So Dryad Arbor finally died on turn, I don't know, what is this, like 7, 8? Survived quite a bit, and it's just time to get that liability off the table so I can stop sweating. Alright, Jim is up, and Jim's going to deploy Jim's own Omnath Locus of the Roil. There is an unfortunate misprint in the Collector's Edition Secret Lair stick figure. It says Omnath Locus of Mana, but it does say it costs 1 in Rug. So that is in fact Locus of the Roil coming on the battlefield. So I do believe that the elemental count is 2 because of the Beeble is in fact a bird elemental or something like that. Either way, Vivien is the target and it's going to kill Vivien. I reveal that the card exiled by Vivien is a land, so just get that out of here. Clean that crap up. Juan laments about also being screwed by the Vivien too many times, but I really liked having the flash as my way to respond at instant speed. There's an Hour of Promise coming down on Jim's side that's unresponded to, so it's going to get a Field of the Dead and a Thespian Stage. So once again, Jim's back on the throne, terrifying at the rate at which Jim is potentially building up board. Like, it's like geometric at almost all points in time. So that's two zombies that come out of the Field of the Dead. Of course, it came into play as well as Thespian Stage at the same time. Jim is going to use one of the triggers off of Siege. So now to draw a card, then play a Sea of Clouds, making another 2/2 blocker zombie. Alright, so I'm getting ready to go to combat again. Jim's board is once again built up to potentially dangerous levels. Very hard to get any damage through. I'm just thinking about sending in Omnath to try and draw in some blocks, remove some bodies from the battlefield here. I deploy a Winding Canyons first, which is a little bit of a tech play here. If he does manage to kill Omnath, I can replay Omnath before leaving combat and keeping all my mana in my mana pool by giving it flash through Winding Canyons. I accidentally hover over my Omnath here, so I swing in with my Omnath, which is a 15/15, along with Nylea, which is a 6/6. So total power 21 at Jim, trying to bait any kind of blocks, but Jim just takes it all. He says, I want to keep my power on board. I followed up with a Argothian Enchantress, And then I use a little bit more of my mana pool for a Courser of Crewfix. Now this triggers both Argothian and Setessan, but in different ways. Argothian is a cast trigger, so I draw a card off of Argothian. Then Setessan triggers as an ETB when an enchantment ETBs. So Courser's on the battlefield and I have to reveal the top card of my deck before I draw it. Luckily it was a forest, so I didn't reveal too much information there. I draw that forest off of the second trigger, and then I reveal the next card of my library, which is a Vizier the Menagerie, which will be my draw for turn. My next turn, that is. I also gain a life for playing a forest there, which is kind of relevant. I'm worried about the Juan's potential to just Blasphemous Act, to zap and delete somebody from the game. So I'm trying to start gaining some life consistently here. I'm also going to follow it with an Arbor Elf, another way to muck up a 5/5 elemental if need be, without killing the elemental and resulting in a lightning bolt. Hogg top decks yet another Mana Dork, an Elvish Mystic this time, so Hogg is pretty much barely even in this game at this point. Most of the damage has been done. Threat level is basically at the very bottom of the spectrum. Juan is going to harrow away that 5/5 land, which is pretty hot tech because that land is also an elemental, so that gives Juan a 3 damage trigger. He's going to send that at Jim's Omnath, not the one that's an Elk, the one that's a Locus of the Roil. So dealing 3 damage to that, and then harrowing in 2 mountains to deal 3 to Jim's face, and to finish off that Locus of the Roil. So once again, that was a harrow, so that was the end of Hogg's turn. So on Juan's main phase is going to activate Nylea to turn one of his lands into a 5/5, and then follow it up with a N-Raise Forerunners. So holy crap. It might not be clear here, but I think Juan has 6 5/5 elementals, along with a 5/5 commander, a 5/5 land, and that N-Raise Forerunners. Juan also plays a Kessig Wolfrun and reveals that he can pump a creature for +7/+0. So Juan's total power output here is 70 damage. Trample, Vigilant. Juan gets to pick somebody to leave the game very easily, maybe even 2 people. So at this point, because it has Trample, we're just adding up our total toughnesses and life totals. Mine comes out to 51, Jim comes out to 36, and Hogg is, what is that, 26 plus 3 plus 6, 29, 35. So Juan's going to send lethal, including blocks, plus a Kessig Wolfrun at Jim, and then the rest at Hogg. So I dodge a bullet here. I thought I might be dead. I thought he might go all in at me, because it's between Jim and I's board state who has the better one. Jim has a better progression of blockers than I do, but Jim is also low enough that he could, in theory, be easier to bolt to death, but I'm glad to see that Juan goes at Jim and removes Jim from the game and sets Hogg on the door of death. I draw and then reveal an Ancient Tomb. I draw that Vizier and reveal Ancient Tomb, play that Ancient Tomb. I don't think I can beat Juan with the number of creatures he has. I can't let him live for any longer, so I'm going to go full in attack at him to see how it pans out. So Juan is declaring blocks here, and it looks like it's going to be a 5/5 and a commander against my Setessan champion, which is a 4/6. And then the boar is going to block my god. Then there's going to be a 5/5 elemental in front of my regal forest. And there's going to be 4 elementals and a 5/5 land, so a total of 25 power, in front of my commander. So slipping through to deal damage is a Courser of Crewfix 2/4, a 1/1 Arbor Elf, and a 0/1 Argothian Enchantress for the lulz. Juan's going to do a last minute. He's like, you know what, on second thought, I'm going to just put all elementals in front and move my land to block the regal force. Maybe just to be easier to see what's going on. So there's 5 elementals in front of my Omnath. I'm going to pay some mana and remove my pool before damage to activate my Nylea, God of the Hunt, to put +2/+2 on my Arbor Elf, thus revealing I did have an out here. If any damage could get through, I can convert all my mana into buffs here. So I'm going to pump this Arbor Elf 2 more times for a total of +6/+6. So it's a 7/7, and along with the Courser of Crewfix, 9 damage slips through unblocked, killing Juan. Of course, I lose pretty much all of my big beaters in that attack. I'm going to redeploy my Omnath, who died when I drained it of all of its power and toughness to play out that trick. I'm hoping that Hogg is just not going to be able to draw anything relevant since he's had such bad draws and is kind of been close to top decking. Hogg is going to deploy his commander, Omnath, Locus to the Roil. Elemental count is 1, so he's able to do 1 damage to any target. He's going to kill that Arbor Elf, which is just rude. That had to kill the player, and now it's dead. Very unfortunate. Out of that is going to pass back to me, so I'm going to do a Rick and Morty, show me what you got, by swinging all out just to see. Not going to wait and see or play it out. I'm just going to swing hard and see if he's got anything to stop me. He reveals that he does not, so I can pump in any other way, add mana to my mana pool for Omnath that has trample, or activate that to pump an unblocked creature for +2/+2 with Nihilias, so that's lethal. That is a wrap. That is a definitive look. I don't want to hear anything about it. This is a repeatable test. This is science right here. I don't care if Omnath Locus of Creation is busting Standard apart. I believe that Omnath Locus of Mana is the best Omnath. I don't know if that's true. I do believe Jim got 3v1 pretty hard this matchup. I think I dodged at least 2 bullets that matchup that I really expected to be hosing me. Either way, that was a really fun matchup. Omnath versus Omnath versus Omnath versus Omnath. Locus of Mana wins that matchup. If you enjoyed this match, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. We will be doing a matchup coming up pretty soon here with just generic Zendikar legendaries. Alright, this is Shannon the Johnny signing off. As always, great minds brew alike.